Hey, good evening everybody. Tonight I'm going to show you how to make Channa masala. This is a natural follow-up to my last recipe, which was how to make chole masala powder, and here's the link for it. Now if you want to use a packet of store-bought, go right ahead. The recipe will work the same. I just think mine tastes better. So it's a pretty simple recipe. You know, I am taking a couple of shortcuts here for people that don't have a lot of time, like to soak your chickpeas dry overnight and then chop your tomatoes and reduce it down to a sauce. So I'm using canned chickpeas and tomato paste, and it works surprisingly well. Now I am using, for the sugar component, some jaggery or gur. I just love this stuff. This is like natural sugar before you do anything to it. It's got everything in it, all the minerals, the molasses, all the flavor, and it's just great. If you can't get this, you feel free to just use a teaspoon of brown sugar. Now for the lime, the reason I said 1/2 to 1 is I get these really small limes at the Indian store I shop at, and so the juice of one of those is fine. If you get like the big ones, like the size of lemons, just a 1/2 is good. I'm obviously not using all this ginger. I've just learned that if you keep it dry in a bowl like this, it doesn't go bad on you as quickly, so keep that in mind. Okay, so here's the complete list of ingredients. So as you can see, I've got pretty large onions here. That's why I put 2 large yellow onions in the recipe. If you only get the small ones, I'd use 4. And here's a nice close-up of that sugar I was talking about. So I'll just chop off a piece right now. This is about the size of 2 teaspoons, and it's actually quite fresh. It's still damp. And just set that aside for the time being. You want to chop these fairly fine. You are going to be mashing them later in the pan. They'll just cook quicker if they're in smaller pieces. As you can see, that makes a whole mess of onions, so I'm going to get some oil started in the pan. So that's about 1, 2, 3 tablespoons. I don't pour exact. It's basically enough to coat the bottom of the pan. A little more, a little less won't hurt. I always start my onions cold. Because for this, you're looking for a saute, you're not actually looking to brown them at all. So I just give them a quick toss with the tongs, coat them in oil, get started on the garlic and the ginger. I got 6 good-sized cloves of garlic here. Now what I'm looking to do is match the size of the ginger. I mean, I put about 2 tablespoons chopped, but it's really hard to determine it accurately. So what I'll do is I'll just probably like break off a knob here, peel this, and when it's chopped up fine, it should be about the same size as the chopped up. So I cut off the ends of those. The peels sort of come off naturally. And just pull on one end, and if they don't, just peel it like that. Just give them a quick smash there and start chopping. There's the garlic all chopped, and I can hear the onions sizzling, so I'll check out the stove. Yeah, those are doing good, so I'll just move those around a bit. And just to give you an idea how to do it here, I'll just cut off both ends quick. I get out my favorite potato peeler and just give it a very light peel, because a lot of the flavor is near the surface. So there's the peeled piece. Just clean this up a bit. I always find ginger is a lot easier to chop lengthwise than cutting it like this and then chopping it up, so I always do it in strips. Try to do it fairly thin. This is a really great knife. See how thin that is? You can see right through it. Gee, I bet you could do pickled ginger for sushi, eh? Maybe I'll do that one day. All the store-bought stuff has got chemicals in it. Turn your slices around. Oh yeah, and if for whatever reason you've got a cutting board that smells at all, if you get a fresh cut piece of ginger, like a large clean piece, and just rub it with it, it actually gets a lot of the smell out and freshens it up nicely. So after it's all chopped up, I've got a little bit more garlic than ginger. So when I said 2 tablespoons, I meant solid, not chopped. And it's a bit more than that, but hey, you know, it's the taste, so don't worry about it so much. Well, I've given the onions another good stir, and they're sauteing nicely, but they're not quite there yet. So I'm going to let it go for a bit more and drain the chickpeas and get the tomato paste open. If you're not used to canned chickpeas, they're really slimy right out of the can. And whatever you do, do not just dump it in a pan and start cooking. You'll see why. When I take this out, or try to, there's this like slimy goo. And you see it when you pour it in. And even more when you start rinsing them. You couldn't really see the slime on the first can, so I'll just start rinsing it directly here, and you can see that froth right up. Okay, that's the EDTA that's used to preserve the chickpeas, and no, you don't want that in your dinner. All right, see, you can see it coming up quite strong now in the bowl. So just make sure you get all that rinsed off. And you too. So while those are draining away in the sink, let's see how the onions are. Yeah. These are soft enough that you can get your potato masher. Now that's my trick to make Channa Masala. I've read a lot of recipes, and a lot of the really genuine, authentic ones use a pressure cooker to get the onions really soft. Now I do have a pressure cooker, but I realize a lot of my viewers don't. But you probably have a potato masher, or if you get your hands on one, for far less than the cost of a pressure cooker. So what you do is just start mashing while they're frying. Right in the bottom of the pan. Okay, so all I'll do is I'll just toss those up with the onions and just let that saute again until I'm not getting any raw smell off the garlic or the ginger. It just starts to have that nice kind of cooked smell. And do keep an eye on it. Well, it's smelling okay, and it's softening up quite a bit. You know, I just give it a squeeze with the tongs. Which just proves that sometimes you can play with your food if no one's looking. Okay, so that's looking okay. I'll start mashing again. And this helps to break up the onions some more and also get any large chunks of garlic or ginger that you didn't chop up completely. And you are going to be simmering this for about a half an hour or so. So there's a lot of forgiveness in there for technique. So you don't have to spend too long with this stage if you don't want to. I mean, obviously if you want the onions really fine, you should chop them up really fine to begin with and spend quite a while doing this, or you could put them in a blender. The only trouble with that is if you lose control of it, you just get goo and you miss the final texture, which is the mark of like a really nice Channa Masala. Because you want these broken up, but you don't want them completely obliterated. Once you're finished mashing those, get out your powder and just sprinkle 4 tablespoons over the top and fry that up with the onions and the garlic and ginger for a minute or so. So once that's fried up, just drop in the gur. That'll dissolve, or jaggery as they call it, one or the other. Add the water. Add the tomato paste. That's not an emergency, that's just my coffee pot turning off. And get that all stirred up with the tongs. So once that's all mixed in nicely, get your chickpeas and throw those in. Stir that up. Now there's some recipes that are quite dry that call for this amount of what they call gravy and would stop here. Personally, I like it with much more sauce, and also even if you cook this covered, this amount of liquid will boil off fairly quickly and you'll have to keep chasing it. So what I do is I just put a lid on it now, leave it on at medium, and just let it come to a boil and cook for a bit. This has been simmering for a few minutes, and you can see there's little holes starting to form in there, and it is drying out a bit. And you'll notice that not all the pieces are even. That was one thing I was going to bring up. If you leave a few chunky bits in your stuff, it'll convince your friends that you actually made it. If it's too perfect, they're going to be like, yeah, right, you made that, But this way, they know it's homemade. Well, get yourself a little bowl. And just pick up, if you're using a soup spoon, fine. If you're using tongs, just like pick up a bit, not too much. I'd say about quarter, half a cup of this. And just get the back of a soup spoon and mash the chickpeas down. Just like that. Obviously, if you're at home, you're going to do this like on the counter. I'm doing it for you over the pan so you can see what I'm doing. And it's also a good way to test how done they are, which is not quite because it's only been a couple of minutes. Now this step allows you to add a lot more liquid and get more sauce and still have it nice and thick. Yeah, you can hear that water nearly boiling away in there. So I will just toss that back in the middle. Get one more cup of water. Give that one last really good stir. Pick up any stuck bits on the bottom or the sides. Because you got to remember, chickpeas are beans and they will get gummy. If there's any spices up there, you want those back in. So at this point, put your lid on, turn your heat down to low, and forget about it and go do something else for about a half an hour, 40 minutes. I set my alarm for 40 minutes, and let's see where we are. It's looking really nice. Yeah. The nice part about adding that third cup of water is that you can forget about this for 40 minutes and it does not stick to the bottom and dry fry and stick and make a horrible mess. Now look at that. So you got a decent amount of gravy there and it still has that fairly dry texture because chana masala that is way too soupy is not good. And if you do want it thicker, you can leave the same amount of water and mash up more of the chickpeas and adjust it to your taste there. So I'm going to get the lime juice in there. That's what I mean. These things are so little. I mean, using half of one in a dish this size just seems like a shame, because it really should have that sharp citrus tang. You can use lemon juice if you want. I just prefer the taste of lime juice in here. So once that's in, just give that a good stir, turn the heat off, and serve it. So I just thought I'd put some in a bowl on the counter here so you can get a good look at the consistency and the color. So that's how I make Channa Masala. I do hope you give it a shot, and I hope to see you again. Thanks for watching.